Welcome back to the deep dive. Following up on last week, where things were pretty neutral, but active up to April 11th.
Yeah, it felt like things were moving around quite a bit then.
Exactly. So let's dig into this past week, the one ending April 19th, 2025.
Yeah.
Our mission, as always, is to sort of pinpoint the key shifts, maybe find some opportunities in the Jamaican agricultural market.
And we're working off the latest market reports, right? Looking at prices, volatility, where the supply is coming from regionally.
That's the plan. And interestingly, the overall sentiment, it's shifted slightly. It's gone from just neutral to neutral but stable.
Stable. Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah, and the average price trend went from that small dip, minus 0.74%, to actually a tiny increase, plus 0.26%.
So basically flat overall, but maybe slightly less shaky.
Seems like it. Average volatility is also down a bit. It was 38.53%. Now it's 33.58%.
What's fascinating, though, is that high-level stability. It kind of suggests that while the big picture is calmer underneath, well, there's still a lot happening with specific crops.
Totally, like the ocean tide being steady, but the waves are still crashing.
Exactly that.
Okay, so just to set the scene, quick reminder from the week ending April 11th. Remember, Gungo peas, green sweet pepper, the yellow ones.
Yeah, they were the big gainers then.
Right. And on the downside, we had imported cauliflower and sugarloaf pineapple taking a hit.
Got it. So context set.
So now, jumping to this week, ending April 19th, we've got a whole new set of commodities making big moves upwards.
Okay, who's leading the charge?
Looks like sweet pepper, red. A really substantial jump, actually, 12.68% up.
Wow. Where's the price sitting now?
It hit $1,593.89 per kilogram. The reports are suggesting really strong urban demand, especially St. Catherine.
Strong urban demand for red peppers. Makes you wonder what's driving that, doesn't it? Changing tastes? Restaurants, maybe?
Could be. Good question. Then tomato salad is up too. A solid 7.17%.
Okay, so that's fetching Jay $429.33 per kilo now.
Yeah, seems like maybe demand is picking up, or perhaps supply tightened a bit. Seasonal shifts.
Standard supply and demand kicking in. And honeydew melon.
Honeydew's up 6.54% increase, landing at $728.70 per kilo.
That feels seasonal, right? People wanting refreshing fruit as it warms up.
Probably. That makes sense. It shows how you can sometimes predict these things in farming.
True, growers might anticipate that. What else is climbing?
Yam, the white Lucea variety, up 6.43% to $644.47 kilo.
Okay, yeah. Could that be export demand? Or maybe local festivals, people stocking up?
Could be either, or both. And finishing off the top gainers is sweet pepper, green, up 6.31%.
So green pepper is showing some strength too at $901.80 per kilo. Positive momentum there.
Yes, but, and this is where it gets interesting, sweet pepper green also shows up on the list of decliners this week.
Wait, really? How much did it drop by on that side?
It dropped 5.69%, down to $598.71 per kilo.
Seems contradictory, right?
It really does. How can it be a top gainer and a top decliner?
Well, that's a really key point, isn't it? This conflicting data for green sweet pepper. It just highlights that the Jamaican market isn't monolithic. Absolutely. What's happening in one parish or even one specific market cutoff might be totally different from another. Maybe a surplus somewhere dragged down one average.
Exactly. It shows you really need that local detail, not just the national average.
Couldn't agree more. You need the ground truth.
Okay, so let's look at the other side properly now. The price drops of the week, ending April 19th. Leading that pack is Cabbage green.
How bad was the drop?
Pretty significant, down 13.8%, landing at just $253.81 per kilogram.
13.8%. Wow. So just too much cabbage around?
Seems like it. Reports mention weakness, especially in urban centers like KSA. Major oversupply vibes.
Yeah, that big a draw. Plus, we know cabbage can be volatile. Suggests a real mismatch between production and what people are buying. Tough for farmers in those surplus areas.
Definitely. Next on the list is sweet pepper.
Yeah.
Down 8.89%.
So yellow peppers cooled off after their surge the previous week. Now at $1,015.38.
Looks like it. Maybe demand settled down or just more became available. Hard to say for sure.
Makes sense. What else dropped?
Sweet potato. Down 6.81%, sitting at $618.12 per kilo.
Sweet potato. Often happens after harvest, right? Inventory's built up a bit.
Yeah, that seems like a plausible reason. It's that cyclical nature of farming again. Planting, harvest, then maybe a glut.
And producers need strategies for that. Storage, finding alternative markets.
For sure. And we also saw string beans dip,
Yeah.
down 6.12% to J, $683.47 per kilogram.
Again, maybe just a post-harvest thing. Lots available, then interest tails off.
Could be. So yeah, clear winners and losers on price this week. Now, let's talk volatility. And when we say something's volatile, what does that actually mean for someone in the market?
Well, think of it like price unpredictability. High volatility just means the price can swing wildly up or down really fast.
Creates risks, but also opportunities.
Exactly. Big potential gains, but also big potential losses if you guess wrong or get caught out.
Okay, so who had the wildest swings this week, ending April 19th? Top of the list, green banana.
Green banana, how volatile.
A huge 66.48% volatility.
66%. Wow, what drives that usually? Demand can be patchy, right? Tourism, ports, and supply can be hit by weather easily.
Yeah, all of the above probably contribute. After green banana, we've got cabbage, green again.
Makes sense given that massive price drop. How volatile was cabbage?
58.05%. Still very high.
Definitely aligns with the price movement. What else?
Then comes hot pepper, West Indian red at 50.1% volatility, Escallion at 47.99%, and plantain green at 47.88%.
Hot pepper, Escallion, often traded more locally, aren't they? Regional supply differences could really drive those swings.
Good point. And plantain, maybe similar drivers to green banana,
Yeah.
local use plus some export influence.
Could be. It's also interesting that green cabbage was most volatile last week, wasn't it? At over 70%.
That's right, 70.47% last week. So its volatility actually came down slightly, even with the big price fall this week.
Still incredibly volatile, but yeah, slightly less than the week before.
Fascinating. Okay, let's zoom in a bit on the regions. What's happening across Jamaica? For this week, St. Catherine really stands out.
How so?
High overall price movement. The average movement was 21.98%. Average price there is J, $794.92 per kilogram.
22% average swing. It's a lot of movement. And the supply source.
That's the thing. The report says unknown dominant supply.
The high volatility could be because it's near Kingston, maybe a big transit hub. But without knowing the supply source, it's hard to be sure what's really going on.
True. Then in Kingston and St. Andrew itself, we're seeing fluctuations, especially hitting leafy greens. Average price there is J, $829.47 per kilo.
Leafy greens. Makes sense in urban areas. They're perishable. Prices probably react quickly to immediate supply and demand shifts, and the supply source there.
Also unspecified in this report.
Okay.
Now, if we look west, Westmoreland and St. Elizabeth, reports suggest more moderate supply levels, and we saw price dips in several things there.
What are the average prices like?
Westmoreland is J, $529.96. St. Elizabeth is J, $554.82 per kilogram on average.
Lower than KSA in St. Catherine.
And importantly, even though sweet potato prices dipped, St. Elizabeth is still flagged as a major production hub for it.
Right, that's crucial context. Price alone doesn't tell the whole story. St. Elizabeth's production capacity is key. You need both price and supply insights.
Definitely. And remember, last week, Clarendon and Manchester were highlighted as good supply regions, while Portland had scarcity.
Yeah, so it shows these regional pictures can really change week to week. Supply hotspot shift.
Okay, so putting this all together, all these price moves, the volatility, the regional differences, what are the key takeaways? What should people be thinking about?
Well, for those just tracking price trends, the opportunities seem pretty clear in sweet pepper, red, and tomatoes right now. Demand seems strong.
Right, follow the upward momentum there.
But on the flip side, you'd want to be cautious maybe with cabbage, green, sweet pepper, yellow, and sweet potato. The oversupply or cooling demand is pushing prices down.
Makes sense. And what about for people actually managing the supply chain, getting things from farm to market?
For them, that rising honeydew melon price could be interesting. Maybe a chance to secure contracts, especially from melon areas like, say, Clarendon or St. Anne.
Good point. Focus on reliable supply lines for trending items.
And also, paying attention to those surpluses is key. You know, the green cabbage in St. Catherine and Manchester. Could that be moved somewhere else? Explore underserved markets.
Thinking strategically about mismatches. It's interesting, thinking back to last week's advice, maybe looking closer at gungo peas or yellow peppers then.
Exactly. And see how quickly things shifted. Yellow peppers are down this week. It just hammers home how fast this market moves. You need to stay informed constantly.
Agility is key. You can't just react to last week's news.
No way. You need the latest data to try and anticipate what might happen next. It's about continuous monitoring and, well, adapting.
So as we wrap this up for this week, what are the absolute main points for our listener to hold on to?
I'd say the big picture is a market that looks slightly calmer on the surface, maybe more stable overall.
Right, that neutral but stable sentiment.
Exactly. But underneath, you've got these really significant swings for individual crops. It's dynamic. There are risks, definitely, but also rewards if you navigate it well.
And the contrasts are stark.
Totally. Like red pepper surging while green cabbage prices collapse. It really shows how varied the experience is across different commodities right now.
That granular view, looking crop by crop, region by region, is just so vital. Okay, so for everyone listening, trying to make sense of this, what's a final thought to chew on?
Well, given these sharp contrasts, the ups and downs, the regional imbalances we've seen, I'd be thinking what unexpected factors might pop up next?
Like what?
Could be anything, really. Sudden weather changes, a big shift in consumer habits we haven't seen yet. Maybe something happens in an export market. What external shock or trend might disrupt these prices further? Or maybe even push them towards stability in the coming weeks?
Keeping an eye on those wider influences. That's a great point to end on. Always more to watch.